Welcome to our podcast. We have with us today Kate Brainerd-Lee, who is a trauma specialist and an EMDR therapist, and we're going to be talking about generational trauma. So, Kate, help me define generational trauma for our listeners.
Generational trauma is probably both genetically as well as behaviorally passed down from past generations to people who have experienced trauma, pass it on to their children, and their children pick it up.
Yeah.
To put it most simply, I think.
Yeah. And you're saying both behaviorally and biologically.
Yes.
What are some examples of, or an example of, a behavioral way generations may pass down trauma?
The one that I think of most quickly is people who survived the Great Depression in America. There's a scarcity mentality. And so it may show up as hoarding. It may show up as needing to have lots of food supplies, lots of water supplies.
Yeah.
Just a fear of not having enough.
So the scarcity mindset in somebody from the Great Depression may be taught to behaviorally their children.
Yes.
And then their children have that same sort of mindset, and it shows up in a variety of ways. And then that may be passed to their children.
Yes. A hilarious story that I've heard is a family, like the granddaughter, cutting off the ends of the ham every time she cooks it. And her child asks her why. And she says, well, my mom did it. And then she asks her mom, why do you cut off the ends of the ham every time you cook it, no matter what size the pan is? Well, my mom did it because they didn't have a big enough pan.
It originated with not having a big enough pan.
Yes.
And I'm guessing the person at the end probably did have a big enough pan, but was still cutting off the ends.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great example of how things are behaviorally passed on. And some more serious examples would be through drug abuse or physical abuse. We all know of times that that's been passed down generation to generation, and how hard that can be to break that.
Yes. Young women choosing abusive men because that's what they grew up with.
Yeah.
It's another example of, I have a client that talks about, oh, I just realized my mom had this and my mom's mom had this and her mom had that.
Wow. Yeah. Yep.
How they all had broken marriages and married men who did not respect them.
For generations.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so there's a behavioral component, and then there's also a biological component. And we call that field epigenetics, the study of how things are biologically passed down. Say a little bit about that.
My understanding of epigenetics is that when you have an experience, probably a trauma, it can change how your genes are turned off or turned on.
Wow.
And you can then deliberately choose to change them, how they're turned off or turned on, when you understand what's turning it on or off. I don't think we know enough yet about what experiences actually cause the specific genes to turn on or off.
Yeah, and so then over generations, these inherited genes affect behavior and choices of people in subsequent generations. So then, is it true that our ancestors' survival mechanisms can become current day obstacles?
Absolutely.
And I'm trying to think of some examples. I'm thinking of a study that was done. This isn't about humans, it's about mice.
Okay.
But it was shared in the book It Didn't Start With You, and they did a study with mice where the mice were exposed to a smell, and then right after they were exposed to that smell, they were shocked. And so they began to associate the pain of the shock with the smell. And so then if you introduce the smell, they'd be afraid because they thought a shock was coming next. They removed the mice from the shock and the smell, and then the mice had babies. And these babies had never smelled the smell before or been shocked. But when they put the babies somewhere with the smell, the babies had a fear response, which was coded in their genes from their parents' experience. Yeah, so even in mice, we can see it shift.
Yes. I think that in the client I was talking about, choosing men who were not reliable was somewhat encoded in their genetics.
Yeah. Yep.
That it's what they saw. and it's what felt normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we go for what feels normal, not always for what is good or
Yeah.
best for us.
Yeah. And we see this generational trauma biblically as well. It shows up a lot in the language of the Old Testament, but we can also see God's design for it, that if our ancestors were in danger, it would be really adaptive and great for them to have their offspring's genes switch so that they could then respond to that same kind of danger of being attacked by a specific wild animal in a specific area of the world. And then if your offspring is then afraid of that wild animal, that would be beneficial.
Yes.
But it doesn't work that way always, and sometimes gets in the way.
Right. Yes, much more so now. Like in talking about like from the Great Depression and scarcity, it can limit someone's lives if they become hoarders, but they feel like they can't let go of anything because what if it could be useful?
Yeah. What would we say that breaking the cycle might look like, or beginning to break the cycle in daily life? For somebody coming from a traumatic family background or multiple generations of trauma, how do they start that?
Part of it is recognizing the pattern. You have to see it first, and getting in touch with how the places that you see yourself responding that way, and then being able to deliberately, consciously, intentionally make a different choice. Although I also would say EMDR is very helpful for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That it helps your brain function differently, have different neural connections, that you change that in your brain as you do that the work of EMDR.
Yeah.
But first you have to see the pattern and say you want to change it and recognize where it's showing up. It's not simple.
Yeah. No, that isn't simple work. It seems like being aware of something might be simple, but it turns out it's not.
It's surprising how long it sometimes takes for my clients to go back and recognize, oh, this is a generational pattern.
Yeah.
Way into therapy. One reason why therapy takes a while.
Yeah, and being aware starts with recognizing in the moment or in therapy that this is a generational pattern, but then being aware also includes recognizing your own daily behaviors or the ways that you are falling into the pattern, which can take a long time.
You have to be willing to look at your family patterns. And some people don't want to look back.
It's painful and difficult work.
Yes.
But if you have the same experience as I do, for every client who's done the work, it's worth it.
Absolutely, it is worth it. Because you have so much more control of your whole life. And you can it gives you freedom. Don't we all want more freedom?
Yes. So maybe we say a little more about that for our listeners who feel damaged by their inheritance. What is a message of hope?
That you can make choices that are different.
Yeah.
You can have that freedom. When you have the information, when you learn it, it gives you so much life that you get to choose. There are good genetic patterns that, as you talked about, the being fearful of a particular animal because they attacked you. I think of my clients who choose to have different and healthier relationships, choosing a different partner, choosing to follow their dreams and not be stuck.
Yeah.
Getting to have a voice, practicing having a voice is a way of having hope and being different. So learning emotional silence, learning that from your family and finding out, no, I am going to feel my emotions and I'm going to express them in all sorts of different ways. That emotions don't have to rule me, and they do rule you when you're required to keep them silent. They are controlling you. And when you can welcome your emotions and be comfortable with them and listen to them, but not be controlled by them, there's such power in that. I think empowerment is something that's a part of breaking the generational habits and trauma.
Yeah, I love that. I love that word, empowerment. And we've talked a little bit about therapy and being with a good, healthy counselor, a trauma therapist, EMDR, and how that can help. There's a lot of good tools for people.